Shit.
Hey guys, welcome back. If you are new here to the Color Plane podcast, what we do is we talk about different things within business, within the creative field. We talk about our own experiences within all of that. And today is no different. We're going to break down the topic of hiring. We've both had some form of experience in this over the last few years running businesses. And we're going to touch on some really important points and have a bit of a debate back and forth over things, because I know that Jess and I do see things a little bit differently, which we probably should become aligned on in the future if we want to hire, if we want to hire well. But
If we want to grow.
Jess, maybe let's start with your experience in hiring.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for myself, Jack, I would have hired over 5 friends by now in my sort of 5 years in business. I've hired a few non-friends too. Well, people, they fast became friends when they joined the business, but before that,
People you didn't know.
Didn't know. So had a bit of both. I've had probably a few mixed reactions. Some people, there's a few springing to mind. We're not going to name names today. We don't need to, but it's all about the experience and the learning. But yeah, certainly pros and cons. But I guess overall, regardless of they're your friend or not, you are looking for certain characteristics, morals and values.
Yep. So similar to Jess, I've hired friends before. I've also hired people that I didn't know previously. Let's jump into what we look for, what we have looked for so far, maybe at Color Plane. We've had 2 to 3 employees to date. We've had people come, people go, new arrivals very recently. So it's very fresh for us, this process. I'm going to start us off. Some things we look for. One is a value set and morals that align with us that's going to fit the culture. If you're going to have someone be around and be in the trenches with you every day, I think that's extremely important that they align on the things that matter, because when shit gets hard, you want people that are going to go to bat with you in a similar way. And so that's definitely one. I would say another one that I have is the ability to have hard conversations is definitely one that a lot of people struggle with, I think.
Yeah, I mean, things are, you said when things get hard, and they do in small business, one thing you can guarantee is things will get hard. There's a lot of unknown, and the things that we stand by, Jack, are transparency, long-term visions. I'm reading this off the wall, by the way. I should know them off the top of my head. A premium product, and we're built to be different. So I think with all the hirings we bring in, friend or not friend, I think that makes sense. We look for them to buy in to those values.
Mm-hmm. And would you say complementary skill set is something we also look for?
Definitely, especially as a small business, most of the hirings so far have been people with skills like videography, design, things that you and I aren't as proficient in. I think that helps. It helps us grow as a business in different areas and probably look a bit more proficient across the whole board. But I also do see the value. I think Alex Hormozy said your first hire should actually be someone that can sort of do those nitty gritty admin tasks, take that away from you and almost free you up to make better decisions. And
yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? And we're speaking from a lens of a small business trying to grow. We're talking about the first 2 or 3 hires in a business. It might look very different when it's a big corporation. There's 100 people involved. But I definitely agree to an extent with looking for someone to take, away 80% of your workload to free you up to go and do what you do best.
Depends on your business too. I mean, if you're a barber, it makes a lot of sense to hire another barber that can cut hair. So then maybe you can do more marketing or cut another person's hair. So it depends in what the labor looks like in your business.
Right. But I suppose for us early days, it's been a matter of we have limited resources and time. So how do we get someone in that's going to bring something new? And yes, we have massive workloads, juggling probably 10 to 20 jobs at any one time. But let's not take, if we can do those jobs properly, let's remain doing them and bring in someone who brings something else that we don't have maybe.
I think for us, why that makes sense is we're looking to scale our products. We have wholesale blanks, something that lots of different businesses need. So the more we can get that out there and bring in other skill sets that can help us do that, I think it makes a lot of sense. But if we're doing something more regimented, like I don't know, a trade perhaps where, you do the same tasks more or less over and over. Anyway, I guess we could go all day about that, but I want to talk about, Jack, I think hiring in general is a really tough gig, regardless if they're your best friend, someone you met for 5 minutes. Things can go wrong really fast. Because of that, I think it's more predictable to hire a friend. You know them a bit better. You've been through thick and thin if it's the right friend, and off the bat, you already have an understanding of what this person's about. So yeah, I mean, speaking honestly, you hiring, it's risky. It's one of the most, if not the most important thing a business does is bring on people. Isn't there that famous quote? Maybe it's a Ray Dalio or something. It's business is people. So you don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah, but so to combat that, I would say that knowing that it's a massive risk, mainly from a business standpoint, of bringing people on, if it goes sour, that could be the business in some senses. Why would you want to then bring in your friendship as another potential risk to lose as well as a business? Like now you've just gone from losing potentially a business and time and energy and whatever it is to now potentially a closest friend that you have shared, all this life experience with, emotional connection. And to lose that, I think if you are looking to hire a friend, you have to fully come to terms with knowing that you could lose that friendship.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point there, Jack, but speaking from experience and from a fair bit of research today, I think vast majority of friendships that go to shit through a business falling apart is through loose structure. It's through not engaging with lawyers on responsibilities, who owns what, that if those foundations aren't built, then I agree completely with you. I think it's very risky to run a friendship through a shit business. You're almost kissing that friendship goodbye. So I think it's critical that you have a really detailed shareholders agreement. And if you do, I think the risk is mitigated. And I almost think, don't get me wrong, business throws up a lot of obstacles and some things are hard to overcome, but a really solid shareholders agreement like you and I have has me pretty confident in not losing friendship.
I also think that along with that, and I do agree that is super important if you are going to do it, but there's a friendship and a working relationship are two very, very different things. And you are only going to find those out by doing the thing. So innately, I think it is a risk to go into business, even if you think you know the person extremely well. You might know someone extremely well, but the only side that you see of them is on weekends or out to eat or places where they're happy and excited to be there. But you probably don't, more often than not, you don't see them in their working environment when the chips are down, they're stressed, they're tired, they don't want to be doing what they're doing. Someone's breathing orders down their neck. And if you don't know those things, then I don't think a shareholders agreement can help you at all. I think that's a flawed foundation. And again, back to that can rear its head in many ways down the line, which breaks the friendship, which again is just a massive risk.
I can't knock that. I guess if I was hiring a friend tomorrow, the first thing I would look at is, have I worked with them before in any given capacity? I think very quickly, within a matter of days or a week working with someone, what they're like. And I agree. I think working is a lot different to hanging out on weekends, having drinks, with no responsibility really. You're just trying to create memories together. I guess that's the definition of friendship. Not to get too philosophical on this podcast, but I can't knock what you've said, Jack. I think I would mitigate it by saying if you have had the experience in the workforce with them and it's been positive, I think it's a smart hire. I think that from there you're ticking all the boxes. There's a predictability element. Their values align. What else could you ask for?
What about hard conversations?
I mean, hopefully you've had some of those in the course of work. In the workplaces you've been in previously. I just think
But you haven't worked with this person in a workplace before
if you haven't,
yeah. So if it's a friend coming in and you haven't worked with them before, you might know them extremely well and seen them in tough times and had hard conversations outside of work.
it's risky. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's risky, but I think if you've worked with them, it's a no-brainer. I do. I think it's a no-brainer. You're aligned morally. The characteristics are there. You've seen them under pressure. I just think it's too risky to hire someone, especially early days in a small business where every hiring's, 20% of your business in terms of if you have a small amount of staff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, cause that could create chaos if that person flips out, and I've seen it, and it is detrimental.
For sure. But then I would then argue that if something does turn out that way, it is a lot easier to maybe sever ties with that person or move on because you don't have the emotional connection that you do with a friend that you've known for 15 years and you care deeply about.
It's a lot harder to detect though. You don't know them. So you give them a lot more leeway. You're not too sure if what that characteristic is. Is that just an off day for that person? You don't know them.
Well, I think it becomes murky between now, like what you're prioritizing. Are you prioritizing a friendship or a business? Because a business is ultimately very objective and a friendship is rather subjective. So, if there's things happening on a day-to-day basis and there's certain things that have to be met, and if they're not getting met by a friend, I think bias is definitely emotional bias can definitely creep in and become something that deters you from maybe maintaining high standards that if it wasn't a friend you would have no trouble in doing.
Let's look at the end goal here. I think as a business, you're trying to appease your customers. I think that's the most important thing. If you're not doing that, you're not really succeeding as a business. You're probably going backwards. So let's take it simply. If your friendship that, you've engaged with a friend, you've hired them, if you can appease the customer, I think you've won at the end of the day. And regardless if that's a friend or not. So I think you got to keep it simple. Yes, it might be hard to have a tough conversation with this friend, because you do love them and care for them. But a good friend should actually be able to help you appease the customer better and quicker, because you know them and you've built those foundations that you don't have to build with someone you don't know.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just think business, you get thrown, like every day is different. And yes, that friend may be there for the good days and some bad days here and there, but business is fucking brutal and relentless. And to bet that they're going to continually be there and be incentivized and love this as much as you do, I just think the cons far outweigh the pros in this sense.
I think in business, it's your life pursuit, and I'd want to do that with people I care about. I don't know if I could just go hire a team of 5 or 10 people I don't know and just grow with them. There's definitely pros that those people can become friends, but I think in this day and age, Shaq, we're seeing people job hop 20, 30 times. We've had 2 staff leave in the last 6 months. The odds of you hiring a team of 5 or 10 of unknown people, I want loyalty. If I hire a friend, I think there's an element of loyalty straight away. And that's, that I wouldn't get with a random person. So overall, I think it's very nuanced here. I would agree with you that if I haven't worked with the friend, it's risky off the bat, because as you and I know better than most, 90% of people aren't made out for any given small business. There's too much responsibility. There's too much shit that hits the fan. Most people aren't made out for it, and that's fair enough. There's days where we don't feel like we're made out for it. But with that said, I would hire friends that I've worked with. If I hadn't, I'd be very, very cautious, because everyone says, they want to work in a small business and sell products and work for themselves, but it's very different actually doing it.
Yeah, I still am strongly on, if you can avoid it, I would. If there's, I think there's people out there that can have similar skill sets as a friend. It's a big world. So there's definitely people out there, and it's just a matter of going and finding them, because it seems good on the surface, but I just know that business is such a long game, and to have someone there that is invested and cares as much as you do for the long run, and to keep you aligned is very, very rare. So I would urge you, if you are going into business with a friend, be very, very sure of who they are and what they look like in their darkest moments. And yeah, I would pick very, very wisely. I mean, we're obviously good friends and we've done it. So that's a massive risk. We're aware of that. But we came in knowing exactly those risks and like to think that we outlined what would happen if things were to go wrong.
Agreed. And I think you and I know there can be no doubt when you're entering into a business, whether it's your business partner or even just hiring a friend as your 15th employee, and this, you're weighing that up. If you're doubting at all whether this person's credible for that role, it's already over.
Yeah.
Because this game's too risky. There's too much shit that pops up that's going to make sure you butt heads and, ultimately fail. It's almost similar to living arrangements. There's only a certain amount of people you can live with. I would even say business is more cutthroat because it's goal oriented. You know what I mean? Like living at home is just, you got to be able to clean and cook and do some shit like that, take out a bin. But this is, you got to put money on the table. It's very cutthroat.
Yeah. I think there's no right or wrong answers. You'll know for yourself what would suit you and your work-life balance. And just know that if you are bringing in friends, then that can really bring it all into one. So if you like to live your life like that, then maybe it's for you. If you like to keep things separate and have, be able to switch off, switch back on, then maybe avoid it. But I think
we're going to agree to disagree here, Jack.
Rebut?
No more rebutting. Just a simple agree to disagree. I think if you've come to the end of the episode, guys, we appreciate you listening. We do have a Facebook group where we share a lot of thoughts, ideas. A lot of small businesses are on there that share what they've been up to. So if you'd like to join that on Facebook, that is the Cold Playing Community Group. Jump on there. We'll see you there, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.